Look, I'm going to be direct with you, not with that motivational coach-style frankness of someone who wears an open-button dress shirt and talks about growth mindset while selling you a $300 course. No, I'm going to be direct the way your best friend would be if he had the courage to look you in the eye and say what everyone thinks, but nobody says. You're trapped. And the ugliest problem with all of this is that you built the cage yourself with materials you bought in installments, and you even posted a picture of it on Instagram with a Nashville filter. In the United States, there's a script, an unofficial script that society freely distributes to everyone on the day you turn 18. It goes like this: finish high school, go to college, get into $80,000 in student loan debt, get a job, buy a car you can't really afford, rent an apartment in a neighborhood that's way out of your budget because the cheaper neighborhood doesn't fit your image, and then spend the next 30 years trying to keep it all going while pretending you're thriving. And the most brilliant thing about this trap? You defend it with grit, with passion, with the same energy as someone defending a football team that hasn't won a single championship in the last 15 years. Someone talks about living with less. You talk about quality of life. Someone talks about moving to a different city to cut costs. You talk about roots. Someone talks about selling their car and using public transport. You look at that person as if they had suggested something obscene at a family Thanksgiving dinner. Because it's not about the car. It never was about the car. It's about what the car represents. And what it represents is this extremely dangerous idea that standard of living is the same as progress in life. It is not. Think about it. You receive your salary. The salary disappears. You breathe a sigh of relief. The salary returns. The salary disappears again. You breathe a sigh of relief. And this repeats for months, for years, for decades. And you call that stability. You call that doing well in life. But stability isn't about staying in the same place for 10 years. True financial stability is about being able to stop working for 6 months and not collapse. And how many people do you know who could do that? One? None? Could you even do it yourself? This is where the illusion gets ugly. Most Americans are 1 or 2 paychecks away from financial catastrophe. That's not an exaggeration. That's data, real research. But the conversation at work on Monday is about which new restaurant opened in the neighborhood, which series is trending on Netflix, and whether so-and-so from the marketing team is really going to buy that new house in Austin. Because maintaining the appearance that everything is fine is an integral part of the social contract you signed without reading. And you didn't read it because nobody reads it. It's like the iTunes terms of service. Everyone accepts them. Nobody knows what they're accepting. The central problem isn't that you spend. Spending is human. The problem is that you spend according to what's expected of someone at your social level, in your position, in your age group, in your neighborhood. You buy to meet a collective expectation that no one in particular imposed on you, but that everyone around you reinforces with their eyes, their comment, with that innocent question of, "But you still drive that old car." It's social pressure operating in silent mode. It's the comparison algorithm running in the background all the time, consuming your energy, consuming your money, consuming your years. And the worst part? You'll grow old maintaining this standard of living. Because lowering your standard of living feels like failure. It feels like you've regressed. It feels like you've lost the race. But the race never had a finish line, my friend. You're running on a treadmill, fast, in new clothes, in an expensive neighborhood, and staying in exactly the same place. There's something nobody tells you about this treadmill. It accelerates. At first, you're racing to pay the rent. Then you're racing to pay for the car. Then you're racing to pay for the house. Then you're racing to pay for your kid's private school because putting your child in a public school in the wrong neighborhood says something about you that you don't want people to say. And with each new race, the starting point changes, the standard rises a step, and what was once a luxury becomes a basic necessity so quickly that you don't even notice the transition. That's how dining out became routine. That's how a streaming subscription became the electricity bill. That's how air travel became the bare minimum for a vacation. It wasn't ambition. It was lifestyle inflation disguised as progress. Think about how many financial decisions you've made in your life that weren't truly your own. The college you chose because it was the expected one. The car you bought because others bought it. The house you financed because renting is throwing money away. A phrase repeated by people who are also paying absurd interest rates for 30 years and calling it an investment. The clothes, the phone, the vacation in the right place with the right photo for the right number of likes. Each of these decisions had an underlying version of itself, trying to shout something different. But the social version prevailed. Because the social version always prevails when you haven't trained the muscle of questioning. And there's a specific moment when this becomes clearer than any other. It's when you get a raise. Think about it. You got a raise, and what happened? Did your financial situation improve, or did your standard of living improve? Because if you earned $500 more a month and immediately signed up for a more expensive gym membership, bought a new car, started ordering takeout instead of cooking, and now frequent happy hour at a bar that was previously out of your budget, you didn't get richer. You just installed new flooring that you now have to work to afford. The raise came, and it was gone before you finished counting. Because standard of living expands at the speed of income, always, unless you consciously decide not to let it. Now, I'm not going to pretend that the solution is to become a monk, drop everything, and go live in a cabin in Montana, eating granola, and philosophizing about capitalism. That's not it. The solution isn't living with less out of suffering. It's living with intention by choice. It's the brutal difference between cutting back because you failed and cutting back because you decided that certain things aren't worth the price they charge you. Not the price in dollars, but the price in time, in stress, in years of your life that you'll never get back. Because, you see, the system isn't against you. The system is perfectly fine with you. The system loves you exactly as you are. Working, consuming, going into debt to consume more, working more to pay off the debt from previous consumption, and starting all over again on Monday with a $6 mug of coffee at a coffee shop you frequent, because it says something about who you are. Meanwhile, real wealth, not lifestyle, but real wealth, is built on decisions no one sees, on the expenses you don't make, on the investments you make before wondering what others will think, on choosing not to buy the car that impresses and instead buying the asset that works for you while you sleep. The question has never been how much you earn. The question has always been, is this standard of living, which you maintain with so much effort, building you up or keeping you exactly where you are? Because if the answer is the second option, you don't have an income problem. You have a script problem. And a script, unlike a salary, you can rewrite. If you want to continue this conversation, stay here.